Welcome to The Explainer. I am so thrilled you're here with us today because, well, we're embarking on a genuinely fascinating journey into the hidden architecture of human behavior. Have you ever caught yourself wondering how the most successful people seem to just effortlessly maintain their routines, while the rest of us kind of struggle to keep up? Today, we're unpacking the actual science of microhabits. We're going to discover exactly why small, tiny actions are literally the ultimate secret to building your identity. Let's get into it.
So why did tiny behaviors succeed when massive goals completely fail? Just think about your past New Year's resolutions for a second. You know the ones, the grand declarations, the sweeping lifestyle overhauls, the intense bursts of motivation that usually just fizzle out by, mid-February? Yeah, we've all been there. But what if the problem actually isn't you? What if the real issue is that massive goals are just fundamentally at odds with how our brains are wired to learn? To truly change, we've got to shift our focus entirely away from grand sweeping motivation and start looking really closely at the tiny, seemingly insignificant actions we take every single day.
Okay, let's dive into this. Section 1, the motivation myth. For decades, pop psychology has basically sold us on this idea that if we just want something badly enough, right? If we just have enough willpower, we can magically change our lives. Well, actually, scratch that. We are about to completely dismantle that misconception. Let's contrast two drastically different approaches to change. Over on the left, we have motivation. It relies on intensity, and it's heavily driven by emotion. The problem here? Human emotion is notoriously unreliable. I mean, you might feel incredibly motivated after watching an inspiring movie, but how are you feeling at 6 a.m. on a cold, rainy Tuesday? Exactly. Now, on the right, we have environment. This is built on consistency and driven by systems. And here's the absolute secret. Consistency always beats intensity. Expecting to transform your life based purely on sheer willpower is a massive neurological mismatch for long-term success. Honestly, it's like trying to power an entire city with a single lightning strike instead of, just building a steady, reliable power grid.
So, to understand exactly why willpower fails us, let's zoom in. Section 2, inside the habit brain, the shift to autopilot. Now, what's really interesting about this is how it maps out the actual transfer of power inside your head. When you try a brand new behavior, your prefrontal cortex is the one in charge. That's the logical, conscious, decision-making center of your brain. But man, it requires a massive amount of energy to run. Your brain, being the incredibly efficient organ that it naturally is, constantly wants to save energy. So as you repeat a task, the prefrontal cortex hands the workload right off to the basal ganglia, which is the primitive, automatic pilot center of the brain. When a behavior successfully moves over to the basal ganglia, you no longer even have to think about it. It just happens.
In this handoff, it's made entirely possible by neuroplasticity. That's the brain's ability to adapt and form new neural connections simply through repetition. I really want you to picture thousands of tiny neural pathways in your brain, suddenly lighting up like a city grid at dusk. Every single time you repeat a microhabit, it's like a drop of water hitting a stone. One drop, it does absolutely nothing. But over time, the steady, repeated dripping of water will literally carve a deep canyon right through solid rock. And that is exactly what your daily behaviors are doing to your brain's physical structure.
Moving right along to Section 3, the 4-step loop, the anatomy of a habit.
This 4-step loop we're looking at, which is drawn from the foundational research of behavioral experts like Charles Duhigg and James Clear, is exactly how every habit on Earth is born. First up, there is a cue. That's a trigger in your environment. Second is the craving. This is the motivational force or the desire to change your internal state. Third is the response, which is the actual habit or microaction you perform. And finally, fourth, the reward. That's the end goal that delivers a nice little hit of dopamine straight to your brain. This dopamine reinforces the entire cycle. These 4 steps, they act like small interlocking gears. Once they start turning, they begin to move the giant, totally unstoppable machine of your daily behavior. Let's zoom back out a bit for Section 4, Actions Shape Identity. You are what you repeat.
Identity isn't born from massive leaps. It is forged through tiny, consistent actions over time. I really want this to sink in for a second. If you have struggled to build good habits in the past, please hear this. Your past failures are absolutely not moral flaws. You are not lazy and you are not broken. You've simply experienced a failure to align with how your brain actually automates identity. Every single action you take is basically a vote for the type of person you wish to become. Think about it. You don't become a runner by running a marathon one time, right? You become a runner by putting on your shoes and stepping outside every single day.
So, The crucial point is coming up in Section 5, Systems over Goals. Design your environment.
The absolute crucial point here is the stark contrast between outcomes and processes. Goals focus purely on your desired outcome, like, say, winning the big championship. Systems, on the other hand, are your daily repeated processes, like what your team is specifically practicing at 3 p.m. on a Thursday. Researchers like BJ Fogg over at Stanford and Wendy Wood at USC have proven time and time again that systems heavily outperform goals, like no contest. If you completely ignored your goals and just focused solely on your daily systems, you would still succeed.
So here are two incredibly powerful, evidence-based systems you can literally start using right now. On the left, we have habit stacking. This is where you pair an old established habit with a brand new micro-habit. It's like saying, hey, after I pour my morning coffee, I will read exactly one page of a book. It acts like a well-placed domino chain. Knocking one over automatically triggers the very next one. Then on the right is implementation intention. This means pre-planning the exact time and location for a behavior, because just saying, I will exercise is way too vague. Saying, I will do 10 push-ups at 7 a.m. right next to my bed gives your basal ganglia a crystal clear, executable script to follow.
And to keep that whole system running smoothly, we use habit tracking. Tracking visualizes your daily progress. It builds personal self-efficacy, which, is just your belief in your own ability to actually succeed. And, crucial to our earlier point, it provides an immediate reward. Just checking a simple box on a calendar gives your brain that tiny little spike of dopamine it's craving. It satisfies that 4-step habit loop and just cements your new identity, brick by brick.
Let's zoom all the way back out to the big picture for our final section. Section 6, the compounding effect. Small fractions add up. 1%. And this brilliantly illustrates the math of self-improvement. Look, if you can get just 1 measly % better each day for 1 year, you're going to end up 37 times better by the time you're done. Crazy, right? But it's true. Small daily fractions compound massively over time. Just like a tiny seed slowly growing into a towering forest, your micro-habits might seem completely invisible on a day-to-day basis, but over a lifetime, they are the absolute only things that truly create lasting transformation.
Our entire thesis really comes together when we look at the core drivers of behavior. Lasting change is just this beautiful blend of environmental systems, consistent microactions, and literally giving your neurology the time it needs to adapt. While the exact timelines of neuroplasticity can definitely vary from person to person, the fundamental science remains crystal clear. It is the alignment of your environment with your biology that truly dictates who you become.
I want to leave you with a final, lingering thought. Your habits are running right now, whether you are consciously directing them or not. Every single small choice is a brick in the foundation of your future self. So take a really good look at your routines today and ask yourself, what identity are your daily micro actions building right now? Thank you so much for exploring the science of habit with me on this explainer, and I truly hope this empowers you to master your very next tiny action.